Chapter 17. Agape and Eros. When we consider the current crisis of our human civilization, the breakdown of morality, gender confusion, and the abandonment of stable marriage, we might be tempted to look for a single cause or a group of people to blame. We might blame the cross-national technocratic elite for promoting anti-family propaganda in their pursuit of ever cheaper and more efficient labour. We might blame the excesses of modern individualistic liberalism, which often promotes anti-family agendas in their quest for freedom from the old system of society. We can look at the introduction of the birth control pill and the sexual revolution. There are many factors to be considered. But if we allow ourselves the liberty to dig more deeply into influences from the past 2,000 years which have impacted our families and altered our structures of community and government, we might be able to grasp the deeper causes for why the institution of marriage has been prevented from reaching its intended glory. The starting point for everything begins here.
Yet to us there is one God, the Father, out from whom as a source are all things, and we for him, and one Lord Jesus Christ, through whose intermediate agency all things exist, and we through him. 1 Corinthians 8:6, Wu Est Expanded Translation.
The primary relation of the universe between Father and Son is a source and channel relationship. The Son receives all that he has from his Father, including life itself, for all things find their source in the Father. The inheritance of the Son of God from his Father is what defines the Father's agape love. Agape is a love that gives freely with no drawing influence or motivation from the one receiving. Let us contrast agape with eros as follows.
Agape is often contrasted with eros, which is not found in the New Testament, though it is prominent in Greek philosophy. Eros can refer to a vulgar, carnal love, but in the context of Hellenic thought it takes the form of spiritual love that aspires to procure the highest good. Eros is the desire to possess and enjoy the need or desire for another. Agape is the willingness to serve without reservations. Eros is attracted to that which has the greatest value, need for equal status or co-equality. Agape goes out to the least worthy. Eros discovers value, seeks equal, whereas agape creates value, makes equal. Agape is a gift love, whereas eros is a need love. Eros springs from a deficiency that must be satisfied. Agape is the overflowing abundance of divine grace. God the Almighty, Power, Wisdom, Holiness, and Love, D. Bloch, 2006, page 147.
To believe that Jesus is the begotten Son is to believe that God has given him everything, and that is why we behold in the person of the Son of God one who is filled with gratitude, joy, and love to his Father. To accept the begotten Son and receive his Spirit into your heart is to receive life, and his Spirit will overturn the destructive relationship principles that have been swirling through humanity for thousands of years. It will stop the oppositional framework of Satan as manifested in Neoplatonism. But the doctrine of the Trinity has at its core the idea that Father and Son and Spirit are equal because of their inherent power. Thus, the love that exists between them is not agape, but eros. They are attracted to each other because of their inherent power. This is how Pope Benedict puts it.
God is the absolute and ultimate source of all being, but this universal principle of creation, the Logos, primordial reason, is at the same time a lover with all the passion of a true love. Eros is thus supremely ennobled, yet at the same time it is so purified as to become one with agape. Pope Benedict IX. Encyclical Letter 2005, Deus Caritas Est, God is Love.
The papacy calls God Eros, refined and purified by agape, but he is Eros first. As Augustine puts it,
Love is of someone that loves, and with love something is loved. Augustine, De Trinitate. on the Trinity. Book 8.
Augustine defines love as something being loved. For love to exist, someone or something needs to be there before love can exist. Adventist theologians Whidden, Moon, and Reeve describe it this way.
If God is truly, in his very essence, the God of love, John 3:16 and 1 John 4:8, then we need to consider the following implications. Could one who has existed from all eternity past and who made us in his loving image, could this God truly be called love if he existed only as a solitary being? Is not love especially divine love, possible only if the one who made our universe was a plural being who was exercising love within his divine plurality from all eternity past? Now quotes from Bruce Metzger. The Unitarian professes to agree with the statement that God is love, but these words, God is love, have no real meaning unless God is at least two persons. Love is something that one person has for another person. If God were a single person, then before the universe was made, he was not love. For if love be of the essence of God, he must have possessed an eternal object of love. Furthermore, perfect love is possible only between equals. Just as a man cannot satisfy or realize his powers of love by loving the lower animals, so God cannot satisfy or realize his love by loving man or any creature. Being infinite, he must have eternally possessed an infinite object of his love, some alter ego, or to use the language of traditional Christian theology, a consubstantial, co-eternal, and co-equal Son. The Trinity, Whidden, Moon and Reeve, pages 115 and 116.
But it is Eros that can't love someone lower than itself, not agape. Eros can only appreciate and be drawn to something equal or greater than itself. Within the Trinity, this creates a source-source relationship of co-equals rather than a source-channel relationship as revealed in 1 Corinthians 8:6. In order to obscure the oppositional framework this produces, as we discussed earlier, in chapter 14, the Trinity blends the three members of the Godhead into one mystical entity. All elements thus spring forth from the one God. But as male and female are made in the image of God, to believe that God and his Son are co-equal, and thus both sources will cause the husband and wife to perceive themselves in the same manner, creating a natural tension or opposition in the leadership of the home. Their position and role in the relationship become obscured. Being co-equal as source means that both can be anything in this model. Except that this isn't true to reality. The man cannot give birth, for example. In the true view of God, the clear headship of the Father over his Son is replicated in the man and his wife.
But I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ. The head of woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. 1 Corinthians 11:3, New King James Version.
As Christ received all from God and the woman received all through her husband, the consequent gratitude, joy, and honor towards the one who gave provides for a natural headship without tension. Within the Trinity, the Son receives nothing from the Father, for he is part of the one, and is himself the giver of all things. The headship then must be arbitrary or imposed rather than natural. Thus, the worship of the Trinity destroys the true relationship that should exist between husband and wife, and will therefore prevent the marriage institution from finding its completion of God's design. It was Satan who desired a co-equal position in the Godhead. He wanted to be like the Most High in position and power. In worshipping the Trinity, we are unwittingly worshipping the system that Satan envisaged and desired. This is one of the reasons why Luther could not progress beyond Eros in his statements about marriage. His worship of the Trinity did not provide him with the correct framework to bring agape love into marriage. The Adventist pioneers had the correct understanding of God, and they could have made a natural transition into an agape framework of marriage if they had accepted the 1888 message. But the failure to do this caused a fall back to the Trinity, and thus closed the door for marriage to be restored to its rightful place. The Father of Love movement now has the opportunity to take the step to restore marriage to its correct place in the context of the divine pattern, which is the foundation for agape love. This step will allow us to step into marriage for life without the need for remarriage after divorce. Only the pioneer movement, which restored the father and son truth, and the 1888 message, which gave to us the framework for agape, can open the door for new covenant marriage to become a reality. Will God's people now take this step to believe that He will restore the marriage relation to complete agape, a love that reflects the character of Christ, who stays with every one of us our entire lives? Will we open to the knocking on the door to Laodicea, which desperately needs agape? Will we be part of the movement which will close the breach on the seventh commandment?